advised the city representatives that the Board of County Commissioners had given direction to the county attorney's office to proceed with all necessary steps to see that the Cetus boat lift is reinstalled or reconstructed at or near the location where it once stood, and to proceed, if necessary, into court. At that time, I advised my client that it would be necessary for the parties to comply with Chapter 164 of the Florida statutes, and that intergovernmental meetings were necessary, including starting with staff meetings and then going to a meeting of the respective board or governing bodies of the city and the county. Since that meeting and the county's position at that meeting, the county also determined that it would be, or they would take an action involving reviewing the scientific information, reviewing the reports that had been prepared, reviewing the agreements that had been submitted and prepared by the stakeholder group, and reviewing the second amended consent order. It's our position that after reviewing these documents and discussing the matters with knowledgeable individuals in the industry, that we are still in the position that the boat lift should be reconstructed or reinstalled as location, that the net benefit to be derived or obtained for this area is not sufficient and does not comply with the second amended consent order. The reason we base that is that the information we received and the information we reviewed in the files, one, there is an insufficient data for modeling purposes, and that the box model used as a basis for the net benefit assessment or determination, only recommended by a few of the individuals who are stakeholders, not the entire group, is not adequate to ensure that there is a net benefit for this area without the construction of the boat lift. And that the data is not sufficient, that the data is not properly obtained, and it needs to be further analyzed and further reviewed before a proper model can be devised and applied on this project. Secondly, the overall purpose and basis for the boat lift is such that the benefit that is necessary to improve the water quality in this area is so significant and such a requirement that even with all of the implementation of what the city of Cape Coral has proposed, which has not been carried out to date, would not overcome the overriding and the primary purpose of having a boat lift. So with that said, I'll turn over to the city or proceed however you think appropriate.
Well, thanks, John. Again, Steve Griffin with the City of Cape Coral Attorney's Office. I'll just jump in. I think it was our understanding the last time around, John and Michael, I think you were here as well, that there was going to be some sort of an exchange of information, that we were going to have an opportunity to get the city manager at that time had the question simply, what is the science that backs up your allegations or your contention that we need to reconstruct the boat lift? So there was at least an expectation on our part that we would get something from that, but we did not. And I guess I just ask you today if you're prepared to.
No, we're not, Steve. There are several reasons for that. It's that one is kind of coming on board late in this this proceeding, the information that we've been furnished, and I'm not representing that this is from staff, but these are from outside sources, indicate that really the problem we're having with, and the problem that will be discussed if we end up going to court, is the data that's used in the modeling is inadequate, and that we really can't determine and we can't support the conclusions that were made, that the necessary improvements or the benefits that will be experienced in the area will be recognized in some future date. So we have, what I'm telling you, Steve, is that, and I apologize for coming around this direction, but we feel at this point it's more of an overall difficulty that we're having with the entire solution process and the way that it was prepared and designed, so that if we go to the client and say, this is what they say, and if we take face value what it is, this is going to be the result. And they can ask, well, what is that based upon? What your findings are, what your experts say, or your consultants say, and say, no, it's based upon what they have concluded. And I'm not saying it's just we don't have any support for it at this point.
Okay, well, I mean, obviously, if you come to the conclusion that the data are insufficient, I guess that kind of begs the question, then what would be sufficient for you? That's the first issue. And the second one is, well, I think we have provided some information in terms of water quality, which was your other concern. That shows that the water quality is improved, notwithstanding the claim that somehow the removal of the boat lift or the deterioration of the boat lift caused water quality to go the other way. And those are your numbers as well. Those are the county's numbers as well as the city's numbers, as you know. And
Part of them are.
well,
Some of
yeah,
them, most of them are based upon whatever the information that was contained in the reports, and the information that we've been given is suggested that other data needs to be to have an accurate determination of a true picture of the health of this area. A new system, a monitoring system, has to be installed that, rather than estimates, there actually have to be measurements, and that we have to see what, if we're going to go that direction, we have to know what we're talking about, and we don't at this point. There are a lot of assumptions, and frankly, our people say that it's something that we can't rely on.
well, let me just follow up if I could on that. But we want to make sure that we understand. And also, is the meeting being recorded?
No.
No? Are there going to be minutes of the meeting afterwards?
No. Unless you want to take some.
It's a public meeting.
The public meeting and
John, so you have to,
the
under
clerk-
state law, you have to
the
have.
clerk said no, they weren't going to be here, so we're taking
Okay.
minutes.
All right. I'm just wondering if there's going to be something provided after this meeting,
I guess,
as is required under state law. Can you answer that question?
no.
There is not going to be anything provided?
Here we are.
Pursuant
right
to
here.
state law?
Here we are. Pursuant to state law,
Okay.
here we are.
All right. Well, if I could get that on the record, I'd certainly like to do that, such as it is. But, you know, I want to make sure that we understand on the water quality issue, because are you saying that you do not believe that the data are accurate? That's inaccurate?
I have been advised that the underlying data, it may not be sufficient. And that there are
Okay.
assumptions.
Well, that's not really what you said. Initially, you said that it's insufficient in the modeling,
Yes,
but I'm talking about the water quality data that we provided.
yes. So,
That's insufficient?
yes.
How's it insufficient?
Well,
Where?
one, there are examples of assumptions that are made rather than actual measurements taken. That the assumptions are, so say assumptions are assumptions. They're such that we don't know if they're accurate. We have been advised that there are questions about them. So,
Do we have those questions?
Yeah, I'd like to, let me make sure, see if I may. Are you talking about this data? The data that's behind,
that's part of it, yes.
okay, regarding water quality only?
Water quality as well as other information in the.
Well, we just talked about water quality.
Just a second, okay.
Okay.
I'm not here to answer your specific questions because I don't know. I mean, I'm not an engineer, I'm not into analyzing the data, I'm just passing on the information we have.
Well,
Okay,
you
that-
have
The
your-
information,
I
I
believe
didn't
you have your
interrupt
engineer
you,
here.
I didn't interrupt you, so please don't interrupt me.
All right.
The information we have is it's insufficient, that the model used is not adequate for the process that needed to be done. That it was a shortcut method.
Okay, may I
So
ask-
process is not sufficient for us to make a decision upon what is gonna happen out there. That's what I'm telling you, that's our information.
Well, you do have someone here from your office who deals with these issues of water quality and the issues of modeling. We know that. And I would just, can we ask that gentleman if he concurs with what you're saying in terms of insufficiency?
He's not been brought in on the matter.
Well, I believe he has.
That's,
He's here.
he is here, but he's not been requested to give any opinions on the matter.
Okay, so there wouldn't even be an opportunity. John, we're talking about in good faith. If you want to do things in good faith, then under the statute, that we're all going through this process, and it's not a pretense. We're here, we've done quite a bit of work to try to present to you what our side of it is. We were told point blank by the county that you would have something available in answer to the city manager's question. What is your science to show that the boat lift has to go back in?
I can read you what my conclusions have been. And my conclusions are that the failure and removal of the Cetus barrier is depriving the large areas of mangroves west of the North Spreader Canal from their seasonal flushing that they require for their maintenance and their contribution to the estuarian ecosystem. That the even though the adoption and appropriate net environmental benefits is probably a worthy of consideration and implementation in the future. But it does not address the primary functions of the North Spreader Canal to distribute the water to the wetlands and the estuaries west of the canal system. That the channelized flows of the fresh water across the North Spreader Canal watershed and point source discharges at canal mouths have been responsible for a variety of adverse ecological impacts to the coastal ecosystem. And that the resulting point source discharges may result in large, highly temporal, as well as fluctuations in the salinity levels. Those are a few of the concerns that have been expressed.
Do we have any data that we can review to support that?
Yes, we have experts and opinions to support that.
Do we have that? Does the city
I
have
don't
that?
have that available for distribution at this time,
Then why are we here today?
because the law requires it.
It's
That's why.
obvious, and we're not here actually sharing information.
Or is the city interested at all in replacing the boat lift? There's $3.5 million available in trust funds for the Department of Environmental Protection. And the only thing I've known that the city wants to do with it is use $500,000 of it to spend on a park. What we need to know is, what does the city want to do as far as the boat lift is concerned? That's never been addressed. That's never been responded to by the city. What do you want to do?
Well,
What we want to do, sir, is to do the water quality improvement plan that was unanimously approved by our council last summer. That's specifically outlined, and it's been presented to the DEP. And that is exactly what we want to do. That's by the unanimous consent of our council. So, and I'm sure you have that, is that correct?
Go ahead.
Okay, so that, no, I'm not referring to that book. I'm referring to the water quality improvement plan that was prepared as a result of all the science in that book that was done to address exactly the issues of water quality and the health of the estuary. And that is the plan that was, again, unanimously approved by council to be executed and implemented last July. Do you have that?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, maybe we should make sure you do have it.
Was this the information that was derived from
It's
this packet
the-
that you prepared, that you were a part of, that your name is on it?
Dr. Janicki is the writer of the technical portions of that book.
Yes. Gentleman next to you.
Now, the water quality improvement plan that I'm speaking of, July of 2011, I guess, I have my years right. Yeah. Takes directly from that book the mandatory NED projects that were developed by the science and all of that material in that book without alteration to be implemented to achieve those water quality benefits for the purpose of the health of the estuary, and because of other information that is also in that book that shows that if we were in alternate to put the barrier back in place, that it would not result in water quality improvement. In fact, it would result in damage to the estuary, which I reviewed here briefly for you at the last meeting in November. And Dr. Janicki has gone back over that again and is prepared to go over that again today, but we thought, as Mr. Griffin commented, that we were going to have an exchange of people speaking that were qualified to speak about science. And you commented, sir, that I think that within 60 days of the meeting we had in November that we would share that science and we'd have a good exchange of things that could have resulted in everybody learning more about these things that everybody is concerned about. But now we're not able to do that. So to answer your question, what does the city want to do? See the July report. The July submittal to the DEP. And if you don't have it, I'm sure we'll be happy to make that available to you.
So there's no interest at this point in the city wanting to reconstruct?
well, that's not true.
Is that right?
I mean, we had applied for a permit, and that permit was rejected.
We know what happened with the permit.
Well, I'm just answering your question.
So is the city at
I'm
this
not,
point?
I'm not
is
trying
concerned?
to, I'm not trying to teach you anything, I'm just answering your question.
Well, I
which was
appreciate
that-
you answering the
Right,
question, Steve.
Right, which was we applied for it, it was rejected.
Yes,
as
it
you
was.
know.
And you didn't appeal that rejection.
Well, we came up with what we thought was a better plan, a better proposal, and have resolved the issue.
Well, frankly, I can say that that plan has been reviewed and it is determined by the Board of County Commissioners that it does not solve the problems and that it does not result in improved water quality for this area, which the citizens are demanding. And the board has directed us to continue forward with seeking the reconstruction of the boat lift.
The material that you were reading from, is it possible, do we already have that, or is that possible
No,
to get
it's
a copy?
it's all work product,
Your work product?
yes.
Okay. But there are conclusions in there that you just read, so you've divulged your work product.
I have reviewed some of my notes, that's all.
I see. So you have no intention of giving us
Correct.
anything that you just read?
Correct,
Okay, until the court case,
correct.
in which time that will be the first thing I ask for.
That'd be fine.
But if there's nothing that you're willing to share with us, I want to make sure that that's written down.
Is there anything you all have,
If
did
there's
you
nothing-
bring anything further?
I'm not done. If there's nothing that you're willing to share with us to make this a productive meeting, then I suppose there isn't much else that we can do than to wait for the lawsuit. And that's a shame, because that's not what the statute stands for, sir, and you know it. statute stands for trying to work out your difficulties and your problems. If you do not believe that, then we'll be happy to brief it. But I'm telling you right now, that's what the statute stands for. Because otherwise it's meaningless. We've come here in good faith, we've provided this information to you. We're out a lot of money here ourselves because of all the things that our council has now told us that we need to do as a result of this. It's not going to be money poorly spent, but that's not the point. The point of the matter is we've tried in good faith to do things that we think are proper for the spreader, that are proper for the city. We've applied for a permit that was rejected. What else do you want us to do?
Thank you. Is that it?
I suppose. Is there anything anybody else would like to say?
Well, I
Since
just feel like
apparently
this
it's our last
says-
opportunity to say.
Well, we came here expecting to see stuff according to the November meeting. They're telling us they have nothing. They're indicating they don't want to cooperate. So I'm not sure what else there is to do.
Well,
This is
it's
very
not that,
disappointing.
it's not that we don't want to cooperate, it's that we see that there's a brick wall
That'd be too productive.
on the part of the city, and that their reliance on a model system that is not appropriate for this area, and the data that does not support that, the water quality issues, that there's no other alternative other than to proceed. And if we can proceed into court without having a joint meeting between the respective boards, that's fine with us. But the law requires that we meet. It doesn't require that we have to agree on everything. But it requires that we meet, exchange information.
And where's the information that you're exchanging?
I just read it to you. And I've
So
given
you're
it to
making
you in my
assumptions.
summation that the box models, the backup information, as well as the second amended consent order, does not support the city's position. The city's position has to be they're going to reconstruct the boat lift if, within a certain period of time, the findings of the stakeholders' documents and the recommendations do not improve or have a net benefit for the system. And nothing has been proven, nothing has been established. It's the city's burden to come forward to show it, and there's nothing that has been done. There's no backup to support what the city wants to do.
I'd say the same for the county. The county's saying
Well-
there's no this or that other thing, but there's been no information exchange.
Let me say this about that. We have scientific and engineering information that's been provided by scientists and engineers. A great deal of it is in that book that was prepared for the stakeholders. We have a scientist with us today who is prepared to give additional information, which we thought we were going to do today, and we thought the county was going to bring theirs. But John, then now you're telling us, and you're not a scientist, but you're telling us that the data for the box model is inadequate. So you're deriving a scientific conclusion about a scientific matter, but you're not a scientist. It's not true to say that the city hasn't provided information. We have provided information, and we're prepared to discuss it today, which is why Dr. Janicki is here. I'm not sure there's any point in that. But if you're making scientific statements need to be made by people that are qualified to make scientific statements. I thought that's what we were here to do today.
It's obvious that we were here because they had to be here.
Correct.
We had to check off the meeting.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if that's it, then that's it.
That's it.
Thanks.
Can I get a copy of my note? What's that?
No.
So there's not going to be any minutes or any notes?
No, we are going to do minutes based on that.
We'll do minutes.
You didn't do minutes for the other meeting either, and I asked for it 5 times. 5 times. Did you send me a report? You did not send me minutes.
The clerk reported.
Do you want me to
we
take
just
an action
asked-
because you violated the public meeting law twice? You want that? Oh, that's very
The clerk
unprofessional.
did
We will
Extremely
send, we will
unprofessional.
send you,
Whatever we have.
Very unprofessional.
we'll send you minutes.
Amazing.